We are joined today by Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe. He is the founder director general of Rambhau Mhalgi Prabodhini, which is essentially the think tank behind many of BJP's governance related policies. Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is also the national in charge of BJP's good governance cell. Thank you very much for joining us today, sir. We wanted to understand from you, what is RMP's main function in the context of the Bharatiya Janata Party,
See, it so happened that when BJP in its earlier incarnation was known as Jansangh, Bharatiya Jansangh, one of the founder leaders of the BJS, Bharatiya Jansangh, Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay, realized that there are obvious limitations to the functioning of the politicians in a parliamentary democracy setup. Because in a parliamentary democracy where elections is the only thing, or is rather the sole parameter of making you into the actual process of governance, because you get elected and then you occupy some position and you have to govern. But then those who are electable may not necessarily have the ability to govern. They are electable because they are popular, but popularity is one thing and ability to govern is a different thing. So, basically what is required is that those who are electable, meaning those who have some popularity, some mandate, some ability to get votes, need also to have the ability to govern properly. What does it require? What all it takes to basically be able to govern? One is that you require to have some clarity of thought. What exactly we are up to? You have to be very clear about the objectives. In that case, you also have to clear about the ideology, because politicians or political parties for that matter need to perform on the ideological lines, because the essential identity of a political party has to be ideally as or in tune with the ideology. So, clarity of thought is one thing. Secondly, understanding of the situation, of the challenges, of the issues, whatever the sector you might be working in, whether you are made a minister of a particular department, you must know, you must try to understand. At least to begin with, you must know that you don't know. That realization also is very important. Yeah. And thirdly, you have to acquire skills. Making people work together to get along with the people is not an easy job. Every minister for that matter, or everybody who gets elected, also have to do some research of his own, which not everybody is able to do. Then he has to formulate his opinion. Then he has to be very articulate. So, all these things pertain to several skill sets. So, basically Prabodhini, the idea of this kind of a dedicated training institute for elected representatives essentially, and then also for the voluntary social workers, evolved out of a need to convert those who are electable into able kind of leaders.
Sure. So, if you can tell us a little bit about the journey of Prabodhini in all these years. It's been more than 20 years for Prabodhini, and you work very closely with a lot of senior leaders in Bharatiya Janata Party especially, What have been the key achievements all these years?
See, recently we completed 30 years. So, at the end of 3 decades, if we look back, I can say with a sense of pride as well that we are and we have been working in this field, and therefore today we have established ourselves as a unique institute in the entire South Asia, or probably in the entire Asia, which undertakes training, capacity building or human resource development for the democratic sector, if I may put it that way. And therefore, building the capacities of the elected representatives as well as the politicians has been the prime objective behind the Prabodhini. And I can say that we have fairly established the need, the relevance, and as well and the utility also of this kind of a setup, which is in a way in the given atmosphere world over. There are democracies, more than 150 countries are democratic countries, elections continue to happen, people get elected, and still you have some kind of a question mark over the efficacy of democracy. Right. See, today democracy has huge popular support, but it does not mean that people are happy with democracy, because they believe that elections have become a mechanism. To get elected has something to do with some kind of a mechanism. So, getting elected is okay, it is not a great thing per se, not a big deal, but then to be able to govern is really a big deal. And unless those who are popular are also able to govern properly, the idea of democracy cannot percolate deep into the minds of the people at large, and they become kind of committed to the idea of democracy. To make people committed to the idea of democracy, making democracy effective is essential, and to make democracy effective, making our leaders, elected representatives, function properly is very critical.
But do you believe that India's democracy, will soon have the Lok Sabha elections, has matured to the extent that one would want it, especially in the context of political parties? Now, most of them are faced with a catch-22 situation, whether they should look at short-term gains, which is the elections, or make promises which are tangible, which are more deliverable than just making populist promises with the objective of winning elections.
I think with every passing day some change is happening. It is not for no reason that Anna Hazare and the movement that he led later on got so much of popular response. At the same time, see, Aam Aadmi Party is an experiment at the end of the day, and it has not been a success, to be very blunt about it. But then that they were able to emerge out of the blue in a way and walk the kind of path they have walked so far is also something which is worth taking into account. And therefore, this has happened because of the changing mindset of the people. People are frustrated insofar as all established political parties are concerned, more or less, and therefore they are wanting to go for some kind of an alternative. Now they are looking the alternative in the given system. A day will come that they will also look for an alternative to the system itself. But then whatever system you bring in, if you are into democracy, elections are a must, and elected representatives are something without which you cannot run the democracy. If that is so, it makes sense to have a mechanism to develop the capacities of the elected representatives. It is such a fundamental kind of task for making democracy successful that it will continue to be relevant for maybe decades or centuries to come. And in that sense, I believe whatever we are doing, it's a small beginning, I understand. But today, for example, there are several takers. Politicians have also realized that they have to perform, period. And therefore, even though we started along the lines of BJP, we are a foundation, a trust promoted by the BJP, but we mean business. We are very professional in our approach. And people belonging to other political parties also keep coming to us, seeking training and guidance from us. That, I believe, establishes the fact that the idea of this kind of a capacity building is very, very relevant.
Right, sir. So you mentioned you're also the national in charge of the good governance cell. What has been the key learnings for the Bharatiya Janata Party in the events that we have seen in the last 2 years, starting from the Anna Hazare movement and also later on Aam Aadmi Party, which you also mentioned? Definitely there are key learnings for everybody. What has been the key takeaways for BJP in this regard?
No, insofar as good governance is concerned, it has been an area of emphasis for the BJP right since the birth of BJP, for that matter. And whether it was Atal Bihari Vajpayee's NDA government or several state governments that were under the BJP rule in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, even in Maharashtra for that matter, or recently in Karnataka, the performance of BJP ruled governments has always been better than their predecessors on any count. Today you take the growth rate in general, or the agriculture growth rate, or the kind of entrepreneurship development and industrialization, or checking the school dropout rate. On every other count, our performance, it may not be hugely different, but yes, it is certainly better than all other political parties. Having said that, why we have been able to do so, the reason remains because of the fact that we are one of the only ideology-driven parties in the current scenario, political scenario. As you are aware, there are 1350 plus political parties in our country, of which only 50 parties matter, of which more than 40 parties are dynasty-based. Remaining 10 parties, if you discount 3-4 communist parties and couple of parties like Assam Gana Parishad, which are not dynasty based, BJP is the only national party which has survived so long without any clear and vertical division in the party, at the same time with ideology as its mainstay and not a particular leader or a particular dynasty. So there are several kind of things which are very special to the BJP, and therefore with these extraordinary features, our problems are also extraordinary, but our approaches are also extraordinary. We have been able to perform on good governance count because our ministers or those who get elected or occupy certain positions are essentially ideology driven. That ideology inspires them. Today, politics is in the midst of a huge crisis of motivation. We, in our own small way, are trying to take care of this crisis of motivation. We provide motivational training, we provide skill training, and we also provide knowledge training. These are the three ingredients which make a leader a performing leader.
How many cadres or how many trainees do you admit every year?
Annually, we conduct more than 20 training programs, and couple of thousand people undergo such trainings. I am talking about the political sector essentially, but in the voluntary sector also we conduct training. Yes. And that is also equally significant, I believe, because that is the sector almost next to the political sector where you find motivation on the wane, right. Skills, something which are yet to be cultivated, and knowledge and understanding is also at a very shallow stage in several cases.
So can you talk about a couple of some of your rather outstanding students from the political sphere of Bharatiya Janata Party?
Well, it would be kind of not fair perhaps to claim that a particular leader, since he underwent training in BJP, now he has reached where he is. Mm-hmm. So I am not going to claim that, because there are several factors which contribute to the making of a leader. But some 7-8 months before, in a particular function, when Narendra Modi was there, he sounded very grateful in mentioning Prabodhini, because he was one of the participants of our training programs way back in 1989 when we conducted a training program. Like for example, Smriti Irani, who is one of the senior leaders of the BJP, had undergone training in BJP. Several frontline leaders, young leaders of BJP today, were at some point of time or the other, were the students of Prabodhini for a shorter or longer training program. And I must tell you that during the last 10 years or so, we have conducted more than 3 training sessions for the ministers of BJP ruled states, and at least around 100 of them, they come and they participate in the training. They stay without any assistant around. They share the room or the accommodation, because we have limited number of rooms, and they sit in the training program all along like a very obedient student. And every time when they leave, they tell us that conduct such programs at least once every year. If you do that, then the chances of our remaining on the track will increase.
Do your programs also reach to the ground level cadre of the Bharatiya Janata Party, or
Yeah, of course. I mean, every level we try to reach out to, even from the ward level karyakartas, the party workers, or the municipal corporators, or the MLAs, MPs and ministers, as I mentioned, or the secretaries who work with the MLAs or MPs. Mm-hmm. For them, we have a particular structured certificate program in political assistantship for that matter. And therefore, we have every variety of training program. These days, we talk more about social networking. So we have a structured program on using social media for political propaganda, for that matter. And therefore, every other area we have been able to cover so far. And as per the need, we also cultivate new training programs which are more of tailor-made, need-based kind of training programs. So we have a training program for women leaders, we have a training program for young leaders, we have a training program for district panchayat, Jila panchayat members, we have a training program for taluka panchayat members, for village bodies, every other area we have covered.
You worked very closely with very senior leaders. You were a political advisor to Mr. Nitin Gadkari, former BJP president. You worked very closely with Mr. Narendra Modi in Gujarat. When you talk about governance, what are the parameters of that? How do you establish good governance? Is it the GDP growth? Is it a particular set of economic numbers, or is it the ground level per capita income? Which are the main indicators you would attribute good governance?
Insofar as good governance is concerned, this term came into usage somewhere around 1980 at the United Nations level, and there are 7-8 parameters. I cannot remember all of them, but it is transparency, accountability, it is participation, and several such parameters are there on which you measure the level of good governance. But I would say that much before all these things came into practice, the Indian concept of good governance has always been like that. For example, the king in our concept always has been, the institution of king was considered to be somebody who has an unattached involvement in the power structure. So, for example, King Shivaji was described by one of the very well-known writer in Maharashtra as Upabhoga Shunya Swami, somebody who will not use the power for self-gratification, but at the same time will take the ownership of the entire structure. So, you own it, but you don't use it for self-gratification. That is the crux of good governance. And if on that count, I believe what is required basically is your intentions must be very clear and very pure as well. The purity of purpose is something very significant to the idea of good governance. If a minister has nefarious designs in his mind, has a very selfish approach, is out to either take care of his vote bank or his own family or whatever other things, which is not expected in the governance model, then of course you cannot achieve good governance. So, it starts with purity of purpose, to say so. Then you require to have a set of skills which is motivating your cadre, motivating the people around you. Narendra Modi, today we all talk about his model of governance. The key to Mr. Modi's model of governance is the way he has motivated his bureaucracy. The entire bureaucracy undergoes training every 2 years under a Karma Yogi training program, and there he motivates them. There he tries to inculcate skills. There he tries to enhance their level of understanding of the area in which they are working. So, all these contributes. At the same time, naturally, accountability, transparency, all these things are extremely critical. But once you take care of purity of purpose, all other things follow. And therefore, I believe good governance is something very, very critical for the success of democracy. All the schemes that have been successful. In Madhya Pradesh, we have this Lok Seva Guarantee Kanun, an act which stipulates as to a particular task need to be completed in a stipulated period of time. And if the bureaucrat concerned, if the official is not able to do that, then there is a fine. This is what accountability means. And therefore, we are out to make democracy successful via the building of capacities of the elected representatives. This, I believe, is the fountainhead of good governance.
We are yet to see the BJP manifesto, but I'm sure some of these proposals which you and your team have been working on would find a way in what the BJP promises to deliver in the next 5 years if they come to power. But you see any particular change that is required for the next government, whosoever it is, to implement?
As I said, work culture. See, today if you go to Gujarat and several other BJP ruled states, there is a subtle and a very purposeful attempt, a very dedicated attempt, a resolute attempt to change the work culture. If we change the work culture in government offices, this can happen if we change the culture of our politics as well. So, things are intertwined, they are linked one to the other, and also bringing in some innovation. I am sure BJP manifesto will be talking about several innovative ideas, and there are huge scope for innovations. If you deal with a problem in a very innovative, out of the box way, chances are that you get success. So, I think transparency, accountability, innovation, result orientation, and as I said, basically bringing in brighter ideas with people's participation as the bottom line. in several countries and in India as well, or in BJP ruled states, if there are certain flagship schemes which are considered as successful schemes, the basic of that particular scheme is in successful participation of the people.
My last question to you, what is the biggest challenge that you see political parties in India facing today?
Well, the waning confidence of people in parties as vehicles of democracy, that is the biggest challenge. If people continue to look at political parties as birds of same feathers, then the very idea of democracy is at loss in a way, because democracy is all about choice, and the choice is there when you have to select between, say, of the several colors, yellow, red, green, blue, then there is a choice. But if you are presented with a choice saying that you have to select between blue, 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 blue and blue, then at the end of the day you will consider that there is no choice at all. So, parties need to cultivate their distinctive features by way of their organization, by way of their philosophy, their ideology, by way of their functionality, and by way of the way they govern. On all these counts, I am sure BJP is faring well, because it has a distinct ideology, it has a distinct organizational culture, it has a very distinct kind of leadership, and very importantly, a distinct track record, more credible track record of being able to offer good governance.
Dr. Sahasrabuddhe, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.